The Village Sage and the Great Journey. In an ancient village nestled between mountains and plains, there lived a wise man named Elias. He was an elderly man with a long white beard and a face that radiated light and tranquility. He was not just an old man, but a spiritual father to the entire village. Everyone turned to him in times of hardship or when faced with life's challenges. Elias was neither wealthy nor the owner of vast lands, but he possessed something far more valuable than gold: wisdom. Anyone who sat with him, even for a moment, walked away with a new perspective on life, as if seeing the world through fresh eyes. One day, a young man named Michael came to him. He was ambitious but felt lost. Sitting before the sage, he said anxiously, "Wise one, I want to be successful. I want to achieve my dreams, but I don't know how. I see others succeeding while I am still searching for my path." Elias looked at him silently for a moment, then asked, "Are you ready for a journey?" Michael was surprised by the question, but he replied eagerly, "Of course. What must I do?" The sage smiled mysteriously and said, "The journey will be long, but if you complete it, you will discover the secret to success." Thus, Michael's adventure began. The sage handed Michael a small bag and said, "You will travel through mountains and valleys and face 3 tests. If you pass them, you will find what you seek." Michael set out on his journey, traversing a rough and winding path. After a long walk, he reached a small village where he faced his first test. The first test: patience. At the village entrance, Michael saw an old man sitting beside a well, struggling to lift a bucket of water due to his weakness. Michael realized he could help, but hesitated. He thought to himself, "If I stop to help, I will be delayed on my journey." But he remembered the sage's words, so he stepped forward and helped the elderly man draw water. The old man smiled and said, "You have passed the first test. Patience is the first step to success." Michael was surprised but understood that the sage wanted to teach him the importance of patience and helping others. He continued his journey until he reached a towering mountain where he faced the second test. The second test: wisdom. At the mountain's peak, Michael found 2 men arguing fiercely over a piece of land, each claiming ownership. He approached and listened to them, then said, "Why not work together and benefit from the land instead of fighting over it?" The 2 men looked at each other, then agreed to his suggestion. They thanked him, and one of them said, "You have passed the second test. Wisdom is the key to success." Michael felt proud, but he had no idea that the hardest test was still ahead. He continued his journey until he arrived at a barren desert, where he faced the third challenge. The third test: faith. In the desert, Michael encountered a fierce sandstorm. He had to keep walking despite the harsh winds. Exhausted, he was on the verge of giving up, but he remembered the sage's words and told himself, "I must trust in my journey. I cannot turn back now." He pressed on until he found an oasis filled with water and trees. At that moment, he realized that faith had carried him through adversity. Michael returned to the village after his long journey and went to the sage, saying, "I have completed the journey and realized that success requires patience, wisdom, and faith." The sage smiled and said, "Well done, my son. Now let me share with you the greatest secret." Michael listened intently as the sage said, "The true secret of success is not just knowing these lessons but applying them in your daily life. You will face difficulties, but if you have patience